Hi, welcome to Hot Topics Live podcast. I'm Kia and I'm here with my girl Gloria, and we are here with another incredible episode to remind you that you are amazing, that you deserve to live your best life, and that you can have, be, or do anything you want as long as you stop those limited beliefs. And today, I have this amazing guest for you, and I'm so excited. Okay, I'm so excited, Gloria. I can hardly breathe.
I'm excited too. I don't know too much about it, but I also am excited about it.
I'm excited too. Okay, so you already know, and if you've been watching or listening to the podcast version of this for since the dawn of time, that my favorite show is The Orville, right? I love that show. You know that I love sci-fi, I love Doctor Who, I love Star Wars, I love all of these things, right? And so and pretty much all things behind the scenes Hollywood too. I really get into that. So, my guest today is all about that life. So, I'm really excited to have him here with us. Um, his name is Patrick, and he is a concept artist. He creates props, and you have probably seen some of his work, right? Somewhere. Okay. And don't even know it. Okay, so this is really incredible stuff, and we're going to talk about how he started and how he got where he is and how he ended up creating a career that he loves. So, and another thing about him is that he is a veteran, and I'm a veteran, and I
Wow,
love to see
that's
my
awesome.
veteran brothers and sisters thriving.
Right.
So, I'm going to bring him on. Should we do
Yes.
that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, great. We're going to be conscious of time today
Right.
because he's working.
Hi. That was quite an
Hi.
intro. Oh my God. Hi.
Aw. Well, welcome to Hot Topics Live podcast. And we're so happy that you're with us today and you could find time to chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've never done this before, so we're gonna
Is your
see.
first
We're gonna
is
see
your
how it
first
goes.
Oh, he's a virgin.
he is a virgin. We're
He's a
going to
Yeah.
take
virgin.
good care of
I
him.
mean, no, but yes. I gotta throw that in there. It's a guy thing. I don't know. No, no. Oh God, no.
He's a virgin.
So, well, we're taking care of you. And first of all, I know that you are in LA right now, both on the West Coast. And
hmm
Gloria, where are you?
I'm in Florida, and right now it's 4:41 p.m.
Oh, right. So it's 1:41 for us. And this time we're all in the United States. Usually my guests are from all over the world, but today we're keeping it sort of local, at least United States wise. So, Patrick, I am dying to know in your bio, I saw that you knew from a very early age that you wanted to work in Hollywood and help these worlds come to life. What inspired that for you?
Um. Well, as most, I don't want to date myself too much, but as most children of the '80s, Star Wars was a very big,
Mhm.
huge, and then Star Wars spawned a million, really sci-fi kind of took off after that, at least movies and TV, and Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers and all that stuff. And as a kid, like I want to fly spaceships, I want to shoot lasers, I want to talk to robots, I want to do all this stuff. And I would make laser guns or whatever out of Legos, out of blah, like whatever was around. And then I want to say I was like 8 or 9, and on TV, they had a special, I think it was an hour or half hour, and it was the making of Return of the Jedi. And they showed all the behind the scenes, and it was costumes and stuff, but it was mostly the models. The spaceships were these huge, the Millennium Falcon is like a 5 foot model. Like it was, and I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. I can make anything I want. I can make any world you want. You can make, whatever. And so I knew, Yeah, I was like 9, and I knew I want, I want to work in Hollywood. I want to live in LA. And I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, but I was a kid and I didn't know how to make that happen. And I'm in school, and I took all the art classes I could and all the shop classes I could, and I was always getting in trouble for drawing and when I should be, doing math problems or whatever. So yeah, and then I was in high school and done with high school, and um, I wasn't a great student, so I wasn't going to get any kind of big time scholarships or anything, and my parents didn't have the means to send me to university, so I joined the military, because also Top Gun hit in '86, and I was like 12, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. And so I went into the Navy. Myself and like my two best friends from high school, we all went into the Navy to get kind of together. We all went in different directions, but of course, because of Top Gun, I wanted to work with jets, and I wanted to do, I wanted to be up on the aircraft carrier, and I wanted to do all that stuff. So I went to school for aviation electronics. Am I going off? Like, am I?
No, you're good.
Just answering your question.
I love it because I'm Navy, so I love it when a shipmate is in the house. Usually
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. It's usually on the Female Veterans podcast that I get the luxury to hang out with a veteran, but I'm all for it. So I'm excited to hear about how serving in the military sort of helped you in your journey.
I guess in sort of indirectly it did, because I was basically I was an AT. I was an aircraft electronics technician, and I was doing, and all of the, when I went to school, everybody wanted to, there was O level and I level, and O level works with the airplane and pulls the boxes out of the airplane and pushes the buttons and stuff. And I level works in a shop, and they do all the little component-y, they solder and they do all the little bits and chips and stuff. And everybody I went to school with was like, well, I want to go I level, because that's my career. When I get out, I can go work for an electronics company. And I was like, I don't care about that. I don't want to do that. And I want to be around the planes. So I was like the only guy in my class that wanted to go out to the squadron. And so I did, and of course, you go to a fighter squadron, it's the closest thing there is to an X-Wing fighter. I mean, oh my God. So, did that, came back out to the West Coast, did that for a few years, and then, got my GI Bill and benefits. And I was in 4 years. I extended the 5th year to go on a second deployment so I could save up some money. And then I, got out of the military. And, everybody's like, why don't you want to re-enlist? You're a second-class petty officer. Like, what? And I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to go, work in Hollywood. But I had no idea how to make that happen. No, I mean, I knew, back in the, when did I get out? 97. Like, the internet wasn't even like, it was still very, I remember the first time I went on the internet, I was trying to play some video game, and I was talking to a guy, and I was like, man, I can't get past this one part. And he was like, well, why don't you just look up on the internet what the cheats are or whatever? And I was like, internet? What's that? And then that was it. And then it was, Netscape, and there was barely anything on the internet. And so, in terms of trying to get into the film industry, and, and who to talk to and what school to go to, and there was I had no idea. I knew the names of a few concept artists that I'd seen in books or magazines, but I had no way to know them, how to get a hold of them. I don't know. So I keep doing this with my eyebrow. It's freaking me out. So I got out of the Navy, and I went back into aircraft, and I was working on, I was doing aircraft electronics on Learjets and Gulfstreams and like private jets and stuff. And I moved to Detroit. And when I was in Detroit, doing all that in my spare time, because I'm a big nerd, and I love Star Wars and all these things, I thought, what would be cool is if I could, about the lightsaber? I could have like Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and and put it on my shelf and play with it. And I started, looking around on the internet, and I found watch. I guess I'm going to plug it a little bit. Friend of mine actually runs it, but the Replica Prop Forum, the RPF, and it was and at the time it was maybe 100 people, and it was guys that make replicas of movie props and they sell them to each other, they sell them back and forth, they sell them on eBay, whatever. Some people have real ones that they somehow got from the movies and now they own it, and everybody was trading information back and forth. And so I got into collecting and making these props, these replicas and stuff. And around that time, Toy Story had come out, and so all of the movies, all the effects in the movies and the spaceship stuff started shifting towards CG. And so it was like, well, if I could do it in the computer, like I can make whatever I want in the computer. I could do, I don't have to I lived in an apartment, I don't need a workshop. I could just do this stuff in the computer. And so I kind of started teaching myself 3D modeling and, kind of getting into that thing. And it was, I was married, my wife at that time, her sister had moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And so we went out to visit, and we were like, oh, we like it out here, and I hate the snow and Detroit, yuck. So we just moved to Phoenix. And around that time, the company I worked for, the aircraft company, they had a guy who did all their drawings, their CAD drawings for the diagrams and stuff. He had quit. And so they said, well, why don't you go, we'll send you to this 3-day school to learn AutoCAD software. And then, you can do that and still work for us from home and in Arizona. And I was like, great. So I did that and learned this software, which, was helping me design my own props and movie props and make stuff. And then I started going to school. There was a little art school out there. It was like a little profit school, which they eventually went bankrupt after the government sued them, and because they were ripping people off and taking student loan stuff. It's called Collins College, and they had an animation program. And so I thought, well, if I get, I could be an animator. I could work for Pixar. I could do these things in the computer. I could do all that. And so I did that. And then, as you may be aware, Phoenix they're not doing a lot of animated movies in Phoenix.
I lived there too, actually, for a year in Phoenix also. Yeah. But I have a question before you go on. So don't forget where you were. So all this time that you're doing this, and you sort of were doing it on the side, you were working like a regular 9-to-5 job and just sort of doing this in your own time as not even a side hustle, but just a creative project on the side.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to make, I wanted Captain Kirk's phaser, and I wanted to hold it in my hand. And I, since I was a kid, and I wanted to play with it, and the lightsabers and the communicators and all that stuff. And, these guys, this community on the internet, they other people make their own replicas and they help each other. And then it's like, well, this guy made a really good one. He had access. He knew the guy that owns the real one, and he got to go over and measure it, and he made a really cool one. And, he's selling them for, a couple $100. And it was like, well, do I keep making my own, or do I buy this one? Do whatever. And so it was it was a hobby basically. And I was doing it, in my spare time at home. And then you would make a piece of it, and everybody would really like that piece you made. And then you would say, well, here's how I made it. And other people go, well, I just want to buy one from you. How much? And you could make a little money, and, then you take that and, oh, I made a little bit. Oh, I'm going to buy this lightsaber off eBay that I saw. And it kind of feeds the cycle, right?
Yeah.
So where was I? Phoenix. So I got out of animation school, no jobs in Phoenix. You gotta live in LA. Everybody's like, you gotta live in LA. And I, at the time, I was just getting divorced, and I was in my early 30s. I don't want to say how old. So I so I had to get a job. I had to pay the rent. I got, bills to pay. And so I became a cliche and became a pool guy for a while. And I did swimming pools, and I did repairs like pool pumps. I worked at a store first, like it's a local chain out in Phoenix, but it's like a Leslie's sort of.
Mhm.
And so I did that for a while, and then they had they all their parts for those. You could go into Leslie's and buy a part for your pool, you pump or whatever. They're a distributor for the parts, so I went to go work for the distributor. And then at the distributor was where all the pool guys come to your house every week. They come there, they buy, that's where they get all their chlorine and their tools and the brushes and all that. And so I got to talking to those guys, and then I got working for one of those companies, and then I would go out to people's houses, and if your pool pump broke, you would either call the company or you tell your pool guy would go, hey, your pump broke, and your pool guy would call us and send one of us out, and we'd fix whatever. So I did that for a while, and then as always happens, met a girl. She was from LA, living in Phoenix, wanted to move back, and so I was like, well, let's go. Like, I'll go with you. I'll go to LA. And so that was like 2008. So wound up in LA. Now I'm in LA, but still I don't know who to talk. I don't know where to go. I don't know, in the studios especially, like, you got to know somebody.
Right. Connections.
To make sandwiches for people, you got to know somebody. I mean, it's
Yes.
ridiculous. And got to be in the union. Got to do that. That's a huge part of the industry out here. So I still didn't know anybody. But then I went back into, I had to pay bills. So I went back into the pool business and I worked for the same distributor I had worked over before, but they're nationwide. So they had a branch out here. So I worked there for a while. And then, what happened? Oh, right. So I was working there for a while, and I was making phone calls. I was trying to get into animation, and I was calling all the studios and stuff, and just nothing was happening. And so I got to the point where I decided, I was like, if I want to do this, if I got to get into the industry, to get to where I want to be, like, I'm not making any progress. And so I was like, I just need to get in it and do anything. Like, it doesn't matter. I just need to get in there. So I feel like, this was my own thought process. For me, I need to feel like I'm moving towards it, and I'm not selling pool stuff. So I got to get into the industry any way that I can. I'll be a truck driver. I'll be a PA. Like, I don't care. Like, I just need to feel like I'm moving. So one day I'm at the pool place, and this guy walks in, and he wants to order a diving board. And he goes, this is the diving board I want. This is the part number. This is the manufacturer. This is this, blah, blah, blah. And he gives me this whole pack of stuff he'd printed from the internet of this diving board. And his business card was stapled to it. And he was a set decorator. His name was Ron Franco. And he was a set decorator for, at the time, it was the show Heroes. And I was like, holy shit. Like, this is like my first person that I knew, and I didn't know him, but like, I'm all over this. I'm going to get this for you. I'm going to order, this is a special order. I'm going to special order it, and he was like, can you have it shipped to the studio instead of, so I don't have to come here and pick it up? Absolutely. And I was like on it. I was like calling every day, making sure everything. I was letting him know, hey, it's here. Now it's in, now it's in Tempe, Arizona. Now it's on the truck. It's headed here. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's going to the studio. Da, 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 da. So he comes in once it showed up or whatever. He came in to pay for it. And I was like, and again, I don't know this guy. And I was like, I'm at the counter, and I'm like, all right, look. I was like, here's the deal. And I told him like my story. And he goes, and I was like, I will do, like, can you, like, I will do anything. Like, literally,
wow.
Will you, like, help me out? And so he goes, I'll be right back. And he leaves. And he comes back. And he said, or he goes, give me your phone number and give me all this information. So whatever. So I wrote it all down. He leaves, comes back like 10 minutes later, and he goes, a lady's going to call you. Her name is, I don't remember at the time. This lady's going to call you. She's very nice. And then he left and he was out of my life. And so
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I'm like, finally, like something's going to happen. And she never called me.
Oh.
Right. So, yeah. So like after like 3 weeks, I was like, yeah, she's not going to call, is she? Yeah. All right. So, I'm crushed.
Oh,
So,
we've all had those moments, right, Gloria?
Yes. Yes.
For sure.
I,
so, oh, sorry.
I'm hearing this story and I see a lot of stuff that I'm gonna comment it later when he finished. But it's very
Oh boy.
interesting. A lot of stuff that he already said.
I really, yes, we have a lot of input, but we're waiting because it's
Yes.
a good story. So please
Yes.
continue.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I was involved in through the kind of the replica prop forum thing. There's a group of people. I don't if you go to Comic-Con and stuff, you've probably heard of them. The 501st Legion, and they're
Okay.
Star Wars. It's a club
Oh,
of
mhm,
people that dress up as Star Wars characters.
Yes. It's gonna be
And
one in
mhm.
Tampa. I think next week.
yes,
This
they're
weekend or next
yeah,
weekend.
they're all over. They're nationwide. These guys,
Yes.
and they go to all the conventions. They go to all that stuff. But they go to children's hospitals and they visit kids, and it's very cool. Um, so I was involved with them. I had I joined at that point? I think I had. You have to have a costume and it has to be super accurate and movie, correct to the movies.
Ooh.
And there's varying levels. There's like some of them are very, like you have the screw is in the wrong place or like whatever. So I put a costume together, like a stormtrooper costume. Is a clone trooper, but come on,
Right on.
who cares? For the purposes of the story, it doesn't matter. So so through that, I knew a guy, or I had met a guy, and you go to meetings and stuff, and because it's in LA, there's a lot of people in the industry, and so I met a guy who worked at a very large local prop house, and a prop house for people that don't know. So, sorry, all the stuff you see on TV show and a movie, the furniture, tables, even props, a lot of that is rented. And there are places that are prop houses that the prop master for the show or the set decorator or whoever goes to, and they're full of stuff. It's like Goodwill exploded. It's like there's 300 different bicycles. There's school backpacks. There's school books. There's school globes. There's sporting goods. There's fake bales of marijuana. There's shrink wrapped fake, it looks like money, like briefcases full of fake money, cereal boxes, like anything you can think of. Literally, they have it, and you can rent it for whatever, how many dollars a week, whatever it is. And this particular prop house had another half, which will become germane later, that was manufacturing. Well, they will make whatever you want. I need a suitcase that has a false bottom in it. When you open it, it's got a gun. There's a foam cutout with guns and hand grenades and ID cards and passports. And I need a laser gun for the new Star Trek movie. I need a speeder bike for the Mandalorian. Like whatever it is, they'll make it. And so one of the guys that I knew from the 501st, he worked at this place. And so, and I kind of peripherally knew that this was kind of the kind of place he worked at, but I was trying to get an animation, right? Like whatever. So, I was at a meeting it was a party, I think. And he was there and just kind of in passing says to me, hey, you should come to the shop sometime and check it out. And so I was like, all right, yeah, like cool. That sounds cool. And so like it had been months had gone by, and so I finally hit this guy up, and I was like, "Hey, I want to come see the shop or whatever." And so we got to talking, and I didn't know him very well. So I got to talking, and he was like, and so he was like, "Oh, you want a job?" Like, yeah, that'd be cool. And so he was like, "Okay." And so he was like, "I think we have an opening in our, I think it was a video department where they rent computers and TVs and VCRs and like iPods and whatever you need for your show, they rent it." So I go to this place and I fill out the application and everything and do all that. And he shows me around and I see the manufacturing and it's, oh my God, this is where they make. And I think at the time they were working on, I think it was the Green Lantern movie, the Ryan Reynolds one.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a bunch of stuff from that and the show Chuck, the TV show Chuck. They had a bunch of, it was like kind of a spy TV show. They had a lot of little gadgets. So,
yeah.
Are you guys losing me?
No.
Okay.
Kia,
you're good.
It's Kia. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
It's Kia.
I just saw the screen kind of froze up.
Yeah, Kia.
Okay.
A little bit.
So I fill out the application and everything and give him my resume. And so he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, 3D modeling?" I was like, yeah, I know, 3D modeling. He's like, "Oh, AutoCAD?" Yep. Maya, which is a 3D modeling software. And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, why don't you work on our art department?" And I go, "I don't know. Why don't I work in your art department?" And so there I was.
Finally.
Well, finally, sort of.
Oh.
And
how many years it took you from the 8 years old to finally get to this point?
I have to do math. Let's see. I was,
because you manifested. You
right.
manifested.
Hang on. I'm doing the math. Hold on. 26 plus 35. I was 35. So minus 9. So 26 years.
26 years took.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing.
No, it goes by in a blink of an eye, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure.
Wow. So all that time knowing, like somewhere in you wanted to do, this was the dream, and going through all these different avenues of life and just holding that vision, and it started to come into place.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you manifested the entire time since 9. You knew exactly what you wanted and you was looking for the right opportunity. And I guess when you want it so much is when it's like eventually it was going to happen and disappear, and to see if you really wanted that vision. And later on the vision came to you just in a silver platter, I would say, because they give you the opportunity to go in and start from there.
Right.
So it was very cool.
It was like I had never intended, like I didn't know, like I knew concept artists like, Ralph McQuarrie, who painted these beautiful paintings of, Tauntauns riding across the snow and Hoth and, X-Wing fighters flying against a Death Star. And I thought that was what a concept artist was. Right. And I was like, that's not, that's cool, but that's not what I want to do. I want to make stuff. Like I want to make the stuff. And the props, I never thought, I never really realized, oh yeah, somebody has got to design the props. Like, because a lot of times, especially like with Star Wars, it's like they went and they found a gun, a World War II gun, and they stuck stuff on it. And, some scopes and something, there's some artistry to it, but they, and then they're like, here it is. And so I never really thought, well, somebody draws all that. And in a lot of cases, they don't. A prop master will go find something they like, that, and turn it, they'll find an old telephone from the 80s, like a cordless phone. And they'll go, we'll take the buttons off it. We'll stick some stuff on it. And this will be our thing. And it's easy and quick. And a lot of times, that's what ends up happening. But like on a show like Orville or Star Wars, or, it's they want, so it's got, everything's got to be custom and they want it just so. And so you go through, somebody's got to draw different iterations and over and over and over until, you know, somebody, whoever signs off on that stuff says, yeah, that's what I want. And then it gets made. But I never thought about getting into props, like it, not as a job, like it was a hobby and it was kind of there, but it was like, okay. And then it kind of happened. And then I was like, oh, like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So I have another question for you.
Sure.
So when you was growing up and you having this vision and wanted to do all this kind of stuff, did your parents know about it? Did you told them that you want to be in Hollywood?
I don't know if I ever said it like that. I remember my thing was, like, the thing that I kept saying was, I want to be a director. Like, I want to be George Lucas. And but I, you know, drawing spaceships and stuff all day long, and I just wanted to make stuff, you know, make a world. And my mom knew, my mom's an artist, and so she knew, and so she kind of, I mean, she sort of encouraged it, but not like, she didn't go buy me all the movie books, you know, like, oh my God, like, take me to the classes. And she didn't do that, but she wasn't ever against it. My dad, I think he wasn't ever against it, but he also was, I feel like the vibe I got was like, well, that's not a real job. Like, that's, you know, you got to go be a computer programmer or be a mechanic or be whatever. Like, that's
A lawyer, a doctor.
Yeah, drawing stuff is not a real job. No, they were like, he's not going to be a doctor. He's not going to be a lawyer. No, like, but yeah, you know, it's not a real job drawing stuff. Nobody does that. You have to be, you know, 1 in a million. Picasso can do that, and Ralph McQuarrie can do, like, he can do that, but, you know, you can't just go get it as a job. And it's sort of true, but it also sort of isn't.
Right. That's
And
really,
so, yeah,
that's really true.
Yeah.
It's really true what you just said, actually. How it's sort of true, but it sort of isn't. Like, there's a lot of people that are very well-meaning and that love us very much, but their belief system doesn't allow them to see the potential of things that are difficult for a lot of people to achieve, right? So, for example, you know, maybe, Gloria, when she first was my student and she was learning how to podcast, and she said to me, a lot of people saying, well, who's going to want to hear your story? But she has a story to tell, and it's pretty incredible. And now she's been podcasting for years, and she's fans and all of these things. And sometimes the people around us don't see the vision so clearly because they're limited by their own beliefs and experiences. So sometimes things do seem impossible for some, but they really aren't impossible. It's just all in what you believe. Do you think that's kind of true, Patrick?
I do. I also think, I was actually thinking about this in the car because I was thinking about, oh God, I got to talk to Kia today. Oh gee, oh God. I think people get trapped by their circumstances.
Yes.
Mhm.
And also those circumstances sort of, define the opportunities that are available. Like, if you live, you know, your circumstances are, you live in, you know, North Dakota somewhere, and you don't know anybody in Hollywood, and you are, you know, you know, whatever they are, you're stuck in a dead end job, and you don't, like, you can't just, and you have a family and a house. You can't just quit and go, I'm going to go be an artist. Right. And, you know, I'm going to go to Hollywood, and I'm going to get in the movies, and I'm going to be an artist. And you can't, your circumstances don't basically allow that to happen. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, to go on. So I'm at this prop house, and I'm working on 10 movies a week. Like, I'm doing stuff for Chuck. And then tomorrow, oh, we need this thing for Avengers quick. And I do, and then, oh, Men in Black 3, we gotta do this thing. and it was like, and I'm working on, I remember one time I counted, it was like I'd worked on like 150 different shows in 1 year. And
Wow.
it's not even like, they're not even big sci-fi shows. Like I did stuff for Pretty Little Liars, I did stuff for
Mhm.
Parks and Rec, I did stuff for, all kinds of different, True Blood, like just any different kind of show you can think of. Like I remember I did, um I think it was Pretty Little Liars. I did some breakaway like lacrosse sticks one time. They needed graphics on it, but they couldn't be a brand name, and I had to make something up. And like, and that was my day to day. And it was like, oh, now they need somebody. There's a mirror that gets shattered, and somebody's gonna stab somebody with the shard from the mirror. So we need to cut a bunch of acrylic plastic shards for this. We needed 10 of them or whatever. And I would end up doing stuff like that for, and I did that for 10 years. And I worked on, Avengers and Mandalorian and Men in Black and like all kinds of different Marvel movies. And I worked on did some stuff for Green Lantern, and I did stuff for, Batman, Dawn of Justice, Batman versus Superman. Like I did stuff for that, and, Dune, and I was all over the place. And so eventually it was like, well, I want to work on a show. Like I want to be in the art department on a show and work, on just one thing. And without getting too much into the politics of it. So again, the union thing in Hollywood. So I worked at this prop shop, and the prop shop was a union prop shop. And a lot of the guys there making the stuff were in the props union, but the designers in the art department there weren't. There's a different union for illustrators and designers, a different local of the same union. It's the Yahtzee. But we weren't in either one, and they kind of wouldn't let us. They kind of didn't want us to join because they would have had to pay us a lot more money. And so it kind of became this thing. And it was like, well, I couldn't work for a show unless I was in the union, and I wasn't going to get
Mm.
in the union where I was at. So I had to do, I started kind of asking around. And the weird thing is like the joke is always, well, how do I get in the union? Well, you have to work on a union show. Well, how do I work on a union show? You got to be in the union. Like it's,
Right.
Right.
and nobody really ever talks about that. They're like, if there's a roadmap, like how do you
Mm.
do it? How do you make it happen? And so I had to do a ton of research, and I had to talk to a bunch of people, and all online and on the internet, and make phone calls and all this stuff. And so it was basically what it came down to was you need an art director to hire you, or there were two ways. I was told there were two ways. There was one, you get on a non-union movie that becomes a union movie, and they call it a flip, and you get in.
Mm.
And the other way was they were like, you got to get an art director to hire you, and then the producer has to write a letter vouching for you, saying that you can do stuff that nobody else can do, and you can get in.
Wow.
And so, what was I going to say? Oh, and they were like, that never happens. Nobody ever gets in that way. It never happens. So I was like, art directors, eh? So what had happened was, so while I was at the prop shop, I had done some stuff for the Orville. I did that because the prop master, the prop master for season 1 and 2, Brian Rogers, he had come to us with a show, and eventually, he had pitched it to us. It's Get Smart in Space. It's like this comedy. It's going to be funny, and it's Seth MacFarlane, so okay, yeah, it's going to be wacky. So I did a bunch of the props for season 1, like I did the guns and the comm scanners and all that stuff. And season 2, they finally had an in-house designer, Lex Kassar.
Mhm.
And so he started doing stuff. And so I did some 3D modeling on some stuff that he designed. But I wasn't really designing anymore. And so, and I'd kind of, once I found out he was a designer, I was kind of talking to him online, and I was like, hey, I make a bunch of this stuff, and hey, I did this stuff. And I was talking to one of the other, he was the assistant art director at the time, Kit Stolen. We were kind of online, and that's something that wasn't available to me early on was everybody's online now.
Yeah.
And you want to get to know that artist, they got an Instagram, they're on Facebook, they got a TikTok, like whatever it is, like they're on there, and a lot of times they will engage with people, and so try, like, fire off a message, hit them up. So what happened was, I was still working at the shop, came home one night, had a bad day, had a couple of cocktails, was feeling, pretty buzzing pretty good. And I was like, who's the art director for the Orville? And so I found out, I did some Googling and searching, and it was a guy named Robert Strohmeyer. And does he have an email address? And did some Googling and found one that I thought was probably close. And I emailed him cold, and I said, Miss Strohmeyer, my name's Patrick Beals. I've already kind of been working for you. Here's some stuff I did for you. I would love to work in your art department.
Wow, that's cool.
And went off, and I didn't hear anything back. And I thought, well, shoot, I shot my shot, and whatever. I'm not any worse off than I was yesterday, so whatever. And then about 3 weeks went by, and he emailed me back, and he said, "Hey, sorry, it's been a while." He was like, "It's crazy over here. I'm going to call you tomorrow." Okay, great. So next day, he calls me the next day, and it's like, "Hey, we want you to do this project for us." And I said, "Okay, great." And I did this little project for them, kind of freelance, and they paid me as a 1099, and I did this quick 3D modeling thing and sent it to them, and they did it, and then they liked it, and so they were like, we're gonna use you as a 3D modeling vendor, so you're on our approved vendor list or whatever. I had to fill out this whole thing, and then a few months went by, and I was doing 3D modeling for the new prop master, Scott Bauer, who I'd known previously from he did Chuck and also Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I did a ton of work for. And so I was doing 3D modeling for him, and they were paying me, as a 1099. And so it got to be, I did that for a few months. This is 2019. So I did that for a few months. And then sorry, lost track. So I'm also trying to, like, are there parts of this I should say? Are there parts I should say?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Robert called me back, and they were doing a set, and they needed a 3D model done of the interior of the set for Orville. It was the, I'm trying to remember what episode. I think it was 304 when we go to the Krill home world, and they make their getaway in the taxi cab.
Mm-hmm.
We were calling it the Krill hover vehicle, the Krill limo. We were calling it all these different names.
That was so dope.
So it was, they needed they were going to send that out to a shop to have built, and they were going to 3D mill it out of foam, CNC mill it. And so they needed a model. And so they wanted me to work in house. So I went down to Fox, and I sat at a table in their art department on my laptop for a few weeks. And they're like, I think it was like a week and a half, and I banged that out. And then it was time, I was done, and it was time for me to go. And I'd gotten to know people and was hanging out. And it was like, I'm in the art department. I'm in it. And the belly of the beast. And I could go to walk on the set whenever I wanted. And I go to the Orville, the set, the ship. And it's all connected together. It's 2 stories. It's all hallways. I got lost inside it. I was trying to get out. And I'm going down corridors of the Orville. And I turn a corner and, like, nope, this is sick bay. I turn around and go, nope, this is the brig. Turn around, go down that big curved corridor. Nope, here's the mess hall. Like, I couldn't figure out how to get out, and I had to stop. And I was like, I'm lost on a freaking spaceship. Like, how cool is this?
That sounds dope to me.
But at the same time, I got to keep it down here because I don't want to be that fanboy, oh my God. So I'm trying to play it cool, right? So anyway, it was time for me to go. Like, shit. like I was here. Like I got to keep my foot in the door. How do I keep my foot in
Yes.
here?
Mhm.
And then I was like, hey, I'm still doing stuff for you guys, freelance. Could I just like park at this table? Like if I stay out of the way, could I just sit here? And they were like, yeah. So I got my foot in the door, and I catch a couple little jobs here and there, and then like some things happen, like, so the Tale of Two Topas episode. So the Mocklin courtroom, that set,
Mhm.
they rebuilt that set 3 times, and
Wow.
they tore it down each time, and then it kept coming back. And they would, like, you'd think like they put it in storage. No, they don't have room. They don't so they have to kind of pick and choose what goes into storage. So we had to recreate that set 3 times, and I was there for
Mm.
the third time. And there were these specific doorknobs, and like I said, in Hollywood they have to rent everything. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. I've been talking this whole time, Jesus. So like the doorknobs, they rent doorknobs, because like, what are you going to do? You're going to go buy 50 doorknobs every time you build a set? No, there's these
No.
places that they just have doorknobs, and you go and I need 10 of that doorknob. Okay, and they rent it to you for $10 a week or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So the doorknobs that they used on the doors were not available. And so I'm at this, and I'm overhearing this controversy. And so I go, well, is there pictures? And they were like, sure. And I was like, well, we just 3D model it and get them 3D printed. And they were like, you can do that? It's like, yeah. And
Science.
so like 3D modeled it. We had them the next morning,
That's
like
incredible.
ready to go. And they were like, okay. So so basically what ended up happening was, I think all that stuff helped, but they were like,
Yeah.
well, let's get them in the union. And so they were like, hey, we're gonna make some phone calls. We're gonna try to do this for you. Is that something you would want to do? And I was like, you
My God, just
freaking
landing your
are you
lap.
friggin' kidding me? Yes. But I'm like, oh yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, of
no, yeah,
course.
I think
You keep
so.
it
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah,
Yeah,
Maybe. I
I'm
mean,
thinking.
right.
I'm thinking.
So
I'm gonna talk to my partner and see what she says.
right. So what happened was, so that was, uh what day was that? That was March 12th of 2020. And
wow.
the world shut down on the 14th or the 13th.
Oh, wow.
Or no, sorry. It was the 11th. It was the March 11th, because the next day was the 12th, and that was our last day of shooting before we broke for COVID.
Mm.
And so COVID.
And so COVID happened.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I had it. I was very so close, wherever the camera is, so close. And I had it in my hand, and now it's gone. But Robert kept checking in with me. He was like, hey, everything's good. We're gonna come back. And it's gonna be a few months. Da, da, da. And we thought at the time it was like, oh, it's 3 weeks, and then we'll be
Yeah.
back. And it turned
Mhm.
into 8 months, and it was like,
Mhm.
and so like by September, kind of the shows kind of started back up, and I started getting phone calls from other shows, and they needed this 3D model, they needed that 3D model, like whatever. And so I would do stuff. And then, but I kept, on Orville. And then finally it was like December, Robert calls me and he goes, I got you in.
That is
And
fantastic.
I was like, got me in what? And he was like, you know what? And I was like, oh my God. So, and then I started in January. I started back on Orville in January, and then for season 3, for the back half of season 3. And then that was it.
Yeah.
And then I was on Orville for January, June, till the end of June. And it got to be the last month or so, and Robert was like, hey, it's we're kind of winding down. It's going to get, you're the last hired, so first fired. So it's going to be we're going to cut you loose. And so I'm like, well, man, what am I going to do now? Like, oh, geez. So the whole time, like the previous 2-3 years, the prop master for Mandalorian was like, I want to hire you, but you're not in the union, so I can't hire you. And so I'm like, all right. And so I kept kind of checking in with him. And so Orville's winding down. He calls me and he goes, I need a guy end of June. And this is like the beginning of June. And so I went to Robert and I was like, they want to hire me. Like, or I didn't have a date. I didn't have a date, an end date for Orville yet. And so I was like, because he just was like giving me a heads up. We're winding down. We're going to cut you loose pretty soon. And so I went, it was like the middle of June. And so I went to Robert and I was like, hey, I got another offer. They want me to start, I think it was the 29th. And he was like, okay, we'll make it happen. And so I wrapped on Orville Friday, started at Mandalorian season 3 on Monday. And then I did that for a few months. Then I went on Ahsoka and I did that for,
Wow.
man, almost 8-9 months. And now I'm on a show called Skeleton Crew. It's another Star Wars show that they just announced a couple months ago. It's got Jude Law in it. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be really cool. So yeah. So that's, and then
Wow.
then Kia was like, "Do you want to be on my podcast?" And I was like, "I guess."
Yeah. See, I pick out the stars and I go,
Perseverance.
that one is interesting and talented, and I want to know everything. And now I do. So I usually
now
get my
you
way
know
too.
everything. You know all.
So now I have questions. Okay.
Okay.
So we wanted to hear the story. So now we're doing this a little different this time. Usually we interrupt and ask questions throughout the whole thing, but we were so entranced.
But I don't shut up.
No. We were so entranced that we were listening, and now we have a million questions. So I hope you're ready. Are you ready?
Oh God.
All right, Gloria, you're first.
No, I still processing one, so I want you to go first.
You want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell me, all this time that you kind of wanted this and this was happening for you, what was that feeling like for you as you're seeing this unfold? Because in the world of sort of manifestation and stuff like that, it is oftentimes said, you can affirm for things or you can put it out there for things that you want or hope for things, believe, and then you sort of release it and let it go. And then you take action steps, right? So this whole time you were taking action steps. Maybe, going into the military, unbeknownst to you, was sort of an action step because you learned all this electrical stuff. And then going to art school and doing these things, the way was sort of coming together, unfolding for you in your life without you really even knowing it. So when it started to really, in the world of Neville Goddard says, harden into fact. So when it started to become reality for you, what was the feeling that you were having? Were you sort of like, oh my God, like it's happening? Or were you like, I can't believe it's happening? Or what was that like?
A lot of it was like it's happening. Like, oh my, like this is like kind of both. Like I can't believe this is happening, and also it's happening. Like, oh my God, like it is interesting because it sort of feeds on itself, because you can, once the one thing happen, like, because it doesn't all just happen at once. You get, you kind of make little steps. Like the one thing happens, and then you're kind of like, well, these things that I did that I didn't know I was doing to make this happen made this happen. What else could I make happen if I pushed a little bit? But then the problem is knowing, well, okay, what do I do to make the next thing happen? What's like it was kind of like I got to sit here for a minute and kind of navigate this new normal to figure out where the off ramp, on ramps are to get to the next place. I think. Go ahead.
I would say that this story of yours is a persevering story, because you probably many years ago could say, you know what, this is my dream, but it's too hard to go in there. But you keep going and keep going and keep digging. And your story is very similar to my story. When I want to go in the produce industry, I did the same thing. I offered myself to do anything, to paint the walls, to paint the floors, but I wanted to be in. And when you was telling the story, it reminds me the perseverance that you need to have in life to be able to get what exactly you want. And sometimes not what you want in the moment that you want it is the right time that you need to be in, because you try, and you thought you got it, and then you're like, and then over and over things happen. So my question to you is, when you finally got it, you went inside, do you have this kind of doubts like, okay, I got it, pero I don't know if this is gonna, if something's gonna happen to not happen. So is it
Sure.
like it was kind of a little trauma there back and forth all the time?
Well, it's always too like, did this. I think the thing that I was always worried about was painting myself into a corner, because it was like, do I make this decision and I go this direction? If is that the right direction? What if I hit, if that was the wrong choice and I needed to choose this other path, can I back out and do, is there an out? Like, and kind of like what you were saying, like it was, I think a lot of it too was, if I want to get here, but I don't know how to get here.
Right.
And I don't even know if I can get here. Can I get next to here? Can I get adjacent? And it was kind of like I want to design cars. I love cars, so I want to be a car mechanic. I can't go be a car designer. I can't just walk in and be a car designer. I don't,
Exactly.
I didn't go to design school. I didn't do any of these things, but I could be a car mechanic, and I could learn that, and then maybe I get to work on a really really exotic sports cars, and then I kind of get into that, and then there's people that design not the whole cars, but there's all kinds of aftermarket spoilers and all kinds of things. Like maybe I design that kind of stuff, and then you kind of can get close,
Close.
and then maybe I mean I don't know anything about car design, but maybe you design enough really cool accessories, somebody will go, well, do you want to design a whole car? And
Mm-hmm.
but you get close to it.
Close.
And it was kind of like with props, like I didn't know it at the time, but it ended up being kind of close, and it was like, okay. And like now it's like I do, so now I'm kind of almost exclusively design props, which is a weird niche, but I mean it pays the same as the other stuff, so whatever. uh, but like on this show, like they were like, do you want to do a costume? You want to design? We got this costume. You want to design a costume? Like, I've never designed a costume before, and I still don't. I don't know if I actually did or not. But I was like, okay, like sure. So I took a stab at it. I mean, I think they're making it. I don't know.
But you
Oh,
also have
that's
to have
interesting.
but you also have to have a huge creativity in your mind to be
Mm-hmm.
able to say yes to everything.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, and then that's the other thing is if I say yes to it and I fail, like they're not going to call me for the next thing, and
Right.
all anybody's going to remember is that you failed, and when your name comes up on the list of people to hire, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that guy hosed us, not that guy.
Wow.
So it's win.
Awesome.
It's like get there and then exceed expectations.
Like make it happen.
Yes,
Make it
and
happen.
for for what it's worth, I mean, I was at that prop shop for 10 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I carry a bit of a chip on my shoulder about my time there, but also like holy cow, like I learned a ton there. I learned a ton about manufacturing. I learned a ton about um, I made a ton of contacts and networking stuff like with prop masters that now is paying off, because
Mm-hmm.
they are like, oh, I know him, I'll hire him to design my props, I'll hire him. And so that paid off. And then also like I don't want to go too much, it's kind of a sweatshop, And it's crazy fast paced, and it's crazy environment, and you're doing something different all the time. And now, like I knock stuff out. I'm doing props and I'm knocking stuff out, and they're like, slow down. Like you're working way too fast. Like, whoa, and I'm like, here's 10 options. And they're like, we were just gonna be good with like one. Like we were gonna like whatever you drew. And so it's sort of now, yeah, I exceed expectations because it's
I
like
would
that's
say
all I know how to do.
I have to say this. I would say that all your journey of life, you had it to go to all these moments of life and learn all these tools to be able to do what you're doing today. Because if you didn't have all this learning, you probably will fail in this one that you have, that you want so much. So you didn't have it in the moment that you want it. You have it in the moment that you was ready to handle the job that you have
Well,
today.
it's interesting too because a lot of illustrators, I mean, they're just illustrators and they draw and then they hand it off. If you draw a picture of a spaceship or a gun or whatever, laser gun, whatever it is, and you hand it off to manufacturing. Well, now somebody's got a 3D model, and now somebody's got to make it because it's just a 2D painting or a drawing, and it looks awesome, but it's just a drawing. And what I'm finding is what I can do in terms of 3D modeling, and I know about 3D printing, and I know about manufacturing, and I know about all that stuff.
Everything,
It adds to my value
of course.
because now, like, I go on a show, art department, and they're like, we need to make this thing, and I'm like, I can do every step of it until we send it off and have it, and then it will show up in a week or whatever, and here the finished thing is. And they don't have to have somebody. It saves them money on the back end because they don't have, or on the front end because they don't have to pay somebody. Now they got to pay somebody to 3D model it. They got to pay a guy to whatever. And a lot of times too, if they don't have access to 3D printing, they send it to a manufacturing shop. The manufacturing shop 3D models it and 3D prints it, and they mark it up and they charge an arm and a leg. But I can 3D model it and send it to there's places that just do 3D printing, and you can send your model to them and they will mail the printed thing back, and we can just go straight to that step. And then a lot of times build it in house. We don't have to have, and they'll paint, the set painters will paint it, and we don't have to have we can kind of cut out a whole 3 steps, and we have and you have full control over it in house, because now every step of the way well, man, that color doesn't look so good, let's try a different color. Like, you don't have to go outside, you don't have an outside vendor doing it. And also, especially with some of the like Disney stuff, Star Wars and Marvel, they want to keep that stuff very tightly under wraps, and they don't want anybody to see it, and they don't want anybody to know about it. They don't want anybody to know about it. And if they can keep it in house, that just helps them. So
Patrick, you can do you can create 2 dolls like where our faces.
I'm not. I can try to sculpt it from photos, but I'm not actually that good at 3D sculpting. We can 3D scan, yeah. Make little bobbleheads. I did that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I did that for a show once. I made a bobblehead.
I never know what she's going to say, honestly. So it's been an hour, and I want to be conscious of your time. I know it was fun. It flew by, right?
Yeah.
But I have a question for you, because I want to make sure everyone gets the maximum value out of all of this information. And so if there was a one thing that you would say helped you to create the work life, the career that you love, what would that thing that you did, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody. That guy that you want to work for, that guy that does what you want to do, because you're going to email them or send a message to them on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, and they're not going to say, you're a piece of crap, I'm putting you on your name on a list, and no one will ever hire you. They're either not going to respond, or they'll respond to you. And if they don't respond, you're not any worse off than you were the day before. You're
Exactly.
still right where you were, and it didn't cost you anything but a minute, or maybe a night to write, an email, the perfect email or whatever it is. And if you don't hear back the next day, you might hear back next week, and you might not never hear, but you're still right back. You're still right where you were. You're not gonna lose anything. So don't be afraid
Amazing.
to talk to people.
Yes, that's awesome.
Amazing. And okay, one more question that's a
Sure.
little bit off topic.
Oh boy.
So tell me, have you been watching this season of the Orville?
I have been. I haven't been watching them right. Well, I have my own reasons, but I haven't been watching them right when they air. But I have been watching them. And this one that just dropped, I guess last night, I did watch right away because there's a lot of cool stuff in it.
So cool.
Yeah, it
I
was
need
pretty
to
cool.
watch that show.
Okay, so I'm going to put this back up here again because I know that a lot of my audience is in Europe. Actually, my main part of my audience is in Europe. And I know that they can watch The Orville on Disney Plus, and it's dropping on August 10th. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. But this last episode, every episode in this season, in my opinion, has been spectacular. Like the writing, the visuals, like everything just flawless.
It
And I
is.
know you contributed. So incredible.
I did a little bit. I think VisFX is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But, yeah, this season is great, and the guys everybody that works on it is just as big of a fan as you guys are, and we are all also sitting with our fingers crossed for season 4 because I would love to come back, but I don't know anything. But yeah, no, this it's nice. I don't mean to, like, I like it all. Like, I like Star Trek, I like Star Wars, I like all of it. And what I will say, the Orville kind of fills the niche. The Orville kind of fills is a niche that Star Trek kind of got away from with Discovery, but now is kind of, I think they're kind of finding their way back because of the Orville. But the aspirational science fiction, like in 300 years, we're going to be okay. And we're going to get through this, and we're going to be better people, and everything's going to be better. And, and then we're going to go out to the stars, and, and I think the Orville really filled that hot kind of void. And, and the storylines too. I mean, they're so
brilliant.
Like, they're great, and they're timely, and they're, they're important.
Yeah. As a very important voice, that show, and the subject matter that they tackle, whether it's actually current events that are wrapped up into the storyline or what it is. It's just so well done, especially as sci-fi. I am admittedly, I like the movies. I did not watch a lot of Star Trek TV except classic, the original Star Trek. However,
that's my favorite.
I spent my youth watching Doctor Who.
But
the Orville really just, I've been with it since the first episode, and so I've watched it grow and sort of spread its wings, and what I'm seeing is probably, I don't know, the best sci-fi I've ever seen. I'm probably a little bit biased, but I'm going on record as predicting that there is going to be a season 4 and possibly a season 5. And I'm putting out there, I'm manifesting at least one movie.
That's right. Yeah. We talked, there was rumors we were going to roll right out of season 3 into a movie. And then I think COVID really like right in the middle really kind of broke our stride. Cause there's the episode, which one of my favorite episodes, which is the one they just released as the audiobook, which would have been the 9th episode. That was a really strong story, and it was kind of an off concept story, which is why I kind of liked it a lot. But I mean, it's got to be more. We got to do more. There's got to be more.
It's not over. So next week is the last episode of the season, correct? Right.
Yes.
So They've all been extra long, so it's like a little mini movie every week. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend everyone go watch it. Watch it from the first season all the way through, because the storylines in season 3, like if the show were to end, God forbid, okay, it would be okay, kind of okay, because the way it was written sort of took the storylines from season 1, and you sort of got a feeling of, if it ended here, I wouldn't be so sad because I don't know what happened, but I'm hoping that the storyline continues.
Yeah, there's still a
yeah,
few threads to wrap up, I think,
yeah,
but
I think so.
we'll see next week.
But yeah, fingers crossed.
So Kia and Patrick. So listen to Patrick's story. We are close. Kia, Hot Topics is closer to Hollywood.
You know, I love LA. I get there every chance I get. I go and meet people. I think networking is really important, and making connections. And I just love to meet people. And I love, I always have loved Hollywood. I have no real desire to be a part of it, but I love the behind the scenes. And I love talking to actors and writers. And actually, you know, a friend of mine, Dawn Garcia, I think you know her too. She's a friend of mine. And I just love that energy. That's my vibe, just hanging out. So yeah, I'm sure we will run into each other. Yeah, she is cool. And hopefully we'll have her on Topics Live sooner than later. She's got a lot of projects.
She's super busy. She's a lot of irons in the fire, that lady.
Non-stop, that one. But the next time I come to LA, hopefully we can connect and have a coffee or a cocktail or whatever you're into, and it'll be really fun.
Both.
And I want all of the above.
You.
And I want to say thank you so much for being a guest. It's been such a pleasure to connect with you and hear your story and and share it with everybody.
It was fun. It was fun, and like, you just let me talk. So
I wanted to hear the story.
I'm sure you're going to lose viewers now, but
it looks like you like to talk.
Unfortunately.
And yes. You were nervous. You were nervous. Okay,
I'm still nervous. What are you kidding me?
Well, thank you so much for being a guest. I appreciate you so much. And you're such an inspiration, I think, for a lot of people.
Very cool.
To go, you know what? Maybe I can go after that thing, or maybe the things that I'm doing right now are leading me to that career that I've dreamt of, or maybe it's not too late for me to shift gears and go after it. And
that's like I said, reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out, and also get adjacent to it. Get close to what you want to do, and you might be able to hop over.
Yes.
Wise words. Thank you so much for being a guest. I'm going to put you in the green room. If you have time for a proper goodbye, we'll close the show and see you there. If not, I know you're working, and I'll just catch up with you later on Instagram.
Okay, great.
All right, sweetie.
Right, thanks.
Awesome.
For coming through.
Awesome story.
Bye.
Cool. Bye.
Bye. Wow, what do you think of that, Gloria?
It was very cool. When he was talking about his story, it was remembering myself too. Because I'm kind of the same way as him, always looking for the opportunity, the avenue, whatever I do. And when I start working in the produce industry, I start working as like everybody, like sweeping the floor, processing lines like everybody else. And I just discovered what was the thing that I needed to, that the situation needed, and I just said, you know what, I think I can do this. And then my career started unfolding, but it took me years, but I knew that I was closer and closer and closer to be an owner of a company. And it took me a lot of years, but here I am. I'm so happy.
You know, what's funny for me is that, I was a stay-at-home mom for like ever. And then I decided that I wanted to start working with female veterans, but I wanted to sort of perfect my public speaking. And I happened to see Brian Rose, and I was watching London Real pretty regularly. And I saw he had this academy, so I decided to attend it. And just by that one choice of choosing to go and attend this academy led for me to learn about podcasting. And then for the academy that I so admired and was so honored to be a part of, to offer me a position, which I have now coached. And I had no idea I'd love coaching people. But now, I've coached thousands of people from all around the world.
Yes.
And it's
And you
like
love
such a
it. And
passion
you
for me,
love
and I
it. And
love
you
it,
love
and I love it.
it.
So this is how I lucked into figuring out what I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I did corporate and
Exactly.
I hated it. So I did the Navy, and well, like Patrick, it was a means for me to get my money for my education.
Exactly.
So all of these things, and who knew that studying finance in university would end up coming full circle as I'm helping people now with crypto and investing and portfolio management and all of that through London Real Academy. So
Yes.
it's just interesting, like Patrick said, these things that happened in his life that
Yeah.
sort of got him prepared to where he is now. It's the same for us, and the same for
Mm-hmm.
many people. But both of us have changed careers in our
Yes.
lives. Like we went
Yes.
down one path, and Patrick was working at the swim store, you know what I mean? Like, and doing that. So changing and shifting and being open to making changes and not being stuck in one career, and always looking for that opportunity to how to get closer to what you want. I mean, these
Mm-hmm.
are the strategies. This is the one thing to do to create a career that you love. And if
They
you have a
said,
career that you love, then you can have a life that you love, because we're always working most of
yes.
our
They
lives,
said
right?
you fake it until you make it.
Yeah. 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 I'm still faking it. I'm just kidding.
I still too.
Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up. This has been your weekly reminder that you are incredible and that you are
Yes.
amazing, in case no one told you. Sometimes people don't hear it. So I'm going to tell you that you're amazing, you're incredible, and you're worthy of living an incredibly amazing life. And if you are not living that life now, it is not impossible for you. And tune in next week to find out more strategies, tips, and tricks on how to do that.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for being here, Gloria. I always love when you're me.
Thank you, Kia, to be here. I'm so happy.
And with that, don't forget to follow Gloria on Instagram. And you can follow me as always on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. Don't forget I'm on TikTok now at Creativity, just like on Instagram. Follow me there and come back next week or listen
And
to the podcast version.
also my podcast Unbreakable Life with
Ah,
Glory.
yes.
It's a bilingual podcast. So you can see it. So if you speak both language, you can be able to see two different shows, one in Spanish, one in Spanish, another in English. And we tell all kind of stories there about depression, anxiety, and PTSD in natural way and a holistic way to always make you feel better.
And you can listen to both of these podcasts anywhere you
Yes.
listen to podcasts. So until
Yes.
next time, we love you.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you.